Some days it feels like progress is infinitely slow on this giant 7-foot Titan I've been building. One of the reasons is the law of diminishing returns. The first 50% of the project, where big chunks of the Titan are coming together in large rough shapes, is extremely gratifying to build, and also to watch because the progress is so clear and obvious. But now that the large structural elements are in place, I'm spending more and more time on smaller and smaller incremental improvements. And that's tough for a few reasons. First of all, as I get closer to the finish line, my sense of perfectionism really kicks in. With this much time already invested, I want this Titan to be really something I'm proud of. And I am proud of it, but I'm also keenly aware of all its flaws and what I still want to be done. Secondly, I'm trying to make videos of the process, and without a big obvious milestone of progress, it's hard to take weeks of steady incremental progress and turn it into a video that I think will excite people and draw a large audience. So let's just put all of that aside and go straight at some of the biggest challenges that have been holding me back from the finish line. First off, the legs. The legs are a really challenging shape to build. They're basically two large bucket shapes, which are totally iconic and were a stylistic element that I was glad to include. But the challenge is that the design of them needs to look like a reasonable fortress-like structure, while simultaneously integrating with a surface that is curved, tapered, and angled. If that weren't tricky enough, it has to be done twice, symmetrically. And it needs some windows on there too. So I started by making a facade on a nice flat piece of plastic art, with 4 Gothic arches, some windows that I designed and printed, some decorative elements, and a nice space for a door I can add later on. I made 2 identical copies of this facade, gluing it together with hot glue, then I glued it in place on my legs. This shot was making me laugh. I guess I had the ISO on the camera really low, so it appears really dark, and it reminded me of those old Western movies where they film a night scene and it's just a day shot with a polarizer. Speaking of which, there's actually a scene in an old Clint Eastwood movie where I guess they wanted to make it a night scene, but they also wanted to show his eyes really well, so they just put dark makeup on his face. It's really confusing and distracting. Look at this. Look, the lights come up and he's not wearing makeup. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Anyways, above the facade I cut some interesting shaped pieces that will cover the top of the curved sloping leg section, hopefully tying the design together somewhat. It's a weird shape in a weird spot and it was tricky to get it to fit right. There are lots of awkward gaps where the front facade meets the rounded part of the leg, and those need to be filled. I use a hot glue gun to attach a bit of plastic card to make a nice durable facing, then use foam clay to fill in behind it. Foam clay is used in the cosplay world a lot, and it's a pretty useful material, but it's really sticky and hard to apply neatly because it has a sort of bounciness to it. It's hard to describe. In any event, I stuffed it into the cracks and such, and did my best. Another thing that holds back the progress on this Titan is my reluctance to commit to one approach. For example, I made these little roof bits ages ago, but for whatever reason I was hesitant to just attach them. Not anymore. I'm gluing those on now. Alright. The biggest problem with the legs that stumped me for a while is this PVC pipe here. Visually, from some angles, it looks okay, but from other angles, the further you get around the side, the more you realize it's just a separate pipe. It doesn't look right. But this leg here is also too skinny on its own, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some extra pieces of foam to thicken up the leg and try to disguise this piece a little bit. Now, it's made all the more complicated by the joints here. Essentially, the piece comes apart here and here. So this is a separate piece. And then the hips lift off here, and I gotta do that so this thing is at all movable or storable. So I gotta think of something sort of clever here that'll make everything work harmoniously in that sense. And this is what I came up with. It looks kind of mental. This isn't attached yet. As you can see, I got to reintroduce the joint element there. This piece now looks like that, which means place that in there like that. And it transforms the angle there. Silhouette wise, I think that's a lot stronger. It actually looks like it could support this whole guy now. So, hell yeah. To cover up that remaining bit of exposed structural pipe, I'll use a clever detachable panel using magnets from the sponsor of this video, the Magnet Baron. These high-strength magnets are small but mighty and provide more than enough grip to hold the piece in place. I simply melt some holes with the tip of my hot glue gun, then apply a dab of glue and put a magnet in the space I've made. These magnets are actually so strong that the biggest concern is them ripping themselves out of their own sockets. So to provide some insurance against this, I used some waterproof wood glue to glue some pieces of paper over the magnets to hold them in place. When that's dry, I have these panels that stick on beautifully. It's actually very satisfying to play around with this. Magnets in general are one of those things that I could just fidget with indefinitely. So anyways, to get your magnets, check out themagnetbaron.com. They've got a great selection of magnets perfect for all your different wargaming uses. Thanks Magnet Baron for sponsoring this video. Alright, the legs are thicker. Let's move on to the next problem. So a while back, I made this plasma annihilator gun with a little bit of foam, kit bashing together a bunch of toy parts. I'm not gonna lie, I have grown to really dislike this piece. First of all, although it's objectively huge, it's actually kind of too small for the Titan, as crazy as that is. So for the second gun, I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. This one I'm going to make bigger, and I'm also going to make him hold it a little bit lower too. But this time, before I get into the weeds detailing the gun, I'm going to make sure I like the proportions first. Because I had already built the shoulder, to make the gun hang lower, I needed to add an extra elbow of ABS pipe, before continuing the barrel with some 2-inch pipe and some 1.5-inch pipe attached to each other with a reducing coupling. This gun is called a Hellstorm cannon. It's a direct energy weapon with a very distinctive 6-barreled look. To make those distinctive barrels, I 3D printed some pieces that would hold some 12-inch segments of PEX pipe in the correct spacing, which I then slotted onto my ABS armature. I cut a nice tapered foam cylinder to sit behind that, then used some blocks of insulation foam to rough in the gun so I could get a sense for if the sizing was right. I'm glad I didn't glue anything, because when I saw it on the Titan, I realized I'd done it again. It was just too small. So I designed some new parts, made some new barrels, this time with some thicker PVC pipe, and cobbled together the rough shape of a much larger gun. It weighs a lot more, but this feels much better proportioned. It'll be thicker and a lot more interesting to look at once it's fully detailed and has the platforms added to it too. As I was working on these things, I kept picking away at other details around the Titan too, like this viewing structure that I built to sit under the upper platform. I wanted something that would tie in the shapes from the upper cathedral with the lower part of the Titan to make the whole thing look more cohesive. These double curved archways were a real pain to cut, and many colorful words were uttered during their creation, but I eventually found something I was happy with. A few 3D printed windows that I designed fit in nicely. And the effect is a nice transitional looking piece of architecture that you can imagine would afford a great view of the battlefield as the Titan strides forward. It's another one of these things that was a lot of work to make, but ends up just being a small detail on the Titan. Worth it though. Of course, I won't know if any of these improvements will look right until I've sealed and base coated them, which I do with a mix of wood glue and gray paint. This blend not only creates a hard protective layer over the fragile foam, it also creates a consistent texture across pieces of different media, which goes a long way towards making the thing feel like one Titan instead of a hodgepodge of construction supplies from Home Depot. I removed all the windows before sealing, took them into the garage and spray painted them gray. This is a lesson that I learned after doing the upper towers. It's a real pain brushing on the ceiling coat with the windows already in. All of the corners in the windows collect globs of paint, so you get a much cleaner result doing it this way. I also decided to move the Titan out of my office to a more open part of the basement to see if I could get some interesting photos. And I learned, unfortunately, that my Titan is larger than my green screen, so I'll need to come up with a new solution to get some of the shots that I have in mind. So I'd like to take a moment to address a frequent comment, which is that the scale is wrong because the Titan is too big. Now, without getting too into the weeds on it, I have done my homework. The canonical sizes that a Titan can be are 40 meters to up to 140 meters, which is a range of something like 3 feet to 10 feet. So I'm well in a canonical size for the Titan here. But if you insist on clinging to the idea that this Titan is too big, maybe you should just take comfort in the idea that it is also compatible with 54mm scale miniatures. That's right, all of your favorite Inquisitor miniatures look perfectly at home on this Titan. And I have to say, I'm pretty stoked about that, to be honest, because I love Inquisitor. I made a video about it that you can check out. It's a really cool game that not a lot of people know about, but look at this miniature. I mean, come on. 54mm Gregor Eisenhorn? Yeah. Oh, by the way, another comment that I get a lot is about friend of the channel Lachlan from Zorpazorp's Imperial Palace on Terra build and how my Imperator Titan would fare against his build. Well, you don't need to wonder because Lachie released a set of STL files recently, so you can make your own, not affiliated with Games Workshop Palace at home, and he sent me some of the files to check out, legend that he is, and they're really nice. So you think it'd be cheeky if I just put some ruins right on the base right there, and then you guys don't have to wonder what would happen? What do you think, Lockie? Like that? Stomping right through? Love you, bud. But anyways, guys, as you can see, we're making great progress. It already looks like a Titan. And I just want to point out that apart from the Plasma Annihilator, there are literally no bits on this Titan yet. None. I have tubs and tubs of bits that I'm going to add mechanical detail to this Titan. I just wanted to get the macro shapes right, and we're there now. So if you want to help contribute to this Titan, I'll put a link to my P.O. box in the description, and if you guys have any bits you want to send me, please send them away. I will thank everybody eventually who sends me bits. I've already had a couple absolute legends send me some lovely troves of little las guns and tank bits and all kinds of helpful stuff. Thank you guys for all your patience, all your support. Thank you for tuning in. I will keep plugging away at this thing. I mean, nobody could look at it now and say it's not happening, right? Right? Looking at you, Steven. Anyways, subscribe. Love you guys. See you next time.